Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. As you can see, I'm doing something a little bit different today. This is sort of a declutter video, except I will not be throwing anything away. I'll be simply packing them away for future use. Granted, if I come across something that has clearly expired, I will obviously dispose that product. But the idea of this video is to go through what I have in my collection and what I'm currently using and what I won't be needing for a couple of months. We currently live in a very small home and we hope to find a new one in the near future. And the biggest problem we have with our current home is the lack of storage, which is a big problem for a makeup and beauty hoarder like me. So I've had to come up with different sorts of storage solutions, and some of them are not as good as the others. I don't know if you guys can see, but this storage drawer unit is tilting like the Tower of Pisa, which means there's too many products in it. My task for today is to go through some of this and pack away things that I know I won't be using in the next couple of months. And maybe in that time we've already found our new home and would be moving. And if not, I can always take those boxes back and put them back in use. But that's the idea I have for today's video. Let's get into it. I'm going to start this declutter series with BH Cosmetics. I'll go through the palettes I have from them and decide with each palette if I'm going to keep using them in the next couple of months or if they are going into my move-in box. Now first up I have their Foil Eyes 28 color eyeshadow palette, and this has, like it says, foiled eyeshadows of different colors. Now this eyeshadow palette is definitely a favorite of mine. I've gotten a lot of use out of it. I definitely recommend grabbing this if you find it on BH Cosmetics website for a sale price. Now I just want to throw it out there that I would not pay full price for any of the BH Cosmetics products. They're always on sale somewhere. So if you see something that you like, wait for a sale. They'll be popping up all the time. But this is definitely a palette that I can see myself using in the next few months. I typically use some of the brighter shades, but I'm going to put it in my maybe pile because what if I get palettes that I already have these shades and a lot more. So this is not a standalone palette. I won't be able to use it on its own. It doesn't have matte shades. So I always need another palette as a companion palette. But I do really like this one. And like I said, I can see myself using it. So we'll see what the other palettes are like. The next palette I have for you guys is the Desert Oasis palette. And if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen this one as my palette of the week. And this is an excellent palette. If you see this anywhere on sale, grab it. It is great quality and it is perfect for everyday use. Let's look inside. As you can see, there's a bunch of beautiful shimmers, a couple of mattes, and then some highlighter shades. Like I said, this is a perfect everyday palette because you can create an entire shimmery look based on these. I think you might be able to create a matte look as well because there are 4 different matte shades, or actually 5 now that I look at it. But these shades are super pigmented and beautiful. If you look at like this shade right here, it is absolutely beautiful. Let me swatch a couple of these shades for you guys. They are super pigmented and beautiful shimmer shades. And I feel like the highlights you get are kind of an extra thing. I especially like this shade Serenity. It is really beautiful on my fair skin, but there are different tones in these and I think these will work for multiple skin tones. I highly recommend grabbing this palette, like I said, if you see it somewhere. And needless to say, this will stay in my collection. I love it. It's great for everyday use. It's great for everything. The next palette I have is their classic Take Me Back to Brazil palette. I believe if you've heard of BH Cosmetics, it is very likely that you know this palette as well. It is a holy grail collab look palette for me and to many others as well. So let's look inside and see what kind of shades this one has. As you can see, it has a ton of bright, colorful shades. Some are mattes and some are shimmer shades. And these are incredibly pigmented, including the matte black in the middle. That one is very pigmented as well. But you can create such an array of looks with this palette, which is why I've used it for collab looks as well. You can do basically anything under the sun with these colors. And you can use the lighter shade to kind of lighten up the color, or the black shade underneath to darken up the shade. So this is such a versatile palette. Now I think I have a couple of collabs coming up, so I will be holding on to this palette for the next 2 months. I'll definitely use it, so I'm going to keep it in the drawer for now. Now the next palette I have is BH Cosmetics Run Wild by Tina Young, and this is their 18 color eyeshadow, highlighter, and blush palette. Now I was not previously familiar with Tina Young, but I did look up her after I purchased this palette, and I do really enjoy the looks she's been creating with this palette. I think this palette is definitely worth it if you can find it somewhere. There is a lot going on, so let's look inside and see. This has some blush shades, and it is a shade Cocoa, could be a bronzer depending on your skin tone, but there are a lot of different colorful shades, plus the 2 highlighter shades up here to choose from. The reason why I purchased this originally was because I feel like this would be a great travel palette if you're looking for fun pops of color. Sometimes when I go on a trip, I'll be gone for a month and a half during the summer, so I usually do collab looks while traveling, and this one is something that I would take with me on those occasions just because it has those colorful shades. Even if it does have those super colorful shades, you can still create an everyday look with this palette as well, because there are a couple of matte shades, and this shimmer shade is perfect for a toned down look as well. So I feel like this palette is such a multitasker. It is lightweight, it is compact, it has everything you need for a face look. So I'm definitely keeping this in my collection as well for now. Now the next palette I have from BH Cosmetics is their classic Galaxy Chic palette. This is an 18 color baked eyeshadow palette, and if you've been a makeup lover for a while, you've probably seen this palette somewhere. This is such an OG BH Cosmetics palette. Let's look inside. Now this palette has these beautiful baked eyeshadows with different sort of shimmer finishes, but there's no matte shades in this one, so this is definitely a companion palette. Now I don't use this anymore frequently. I feel like I would have otherwise decluttered it, but it has sentimental value to me since it's one of the first makeup palettes I purchased once I got into makeup a few years ago. But there is definitely some life left in this palette, and I really need to use this more. However, for now, I think I'm going to pack this away. It is not an essential palette for me. I need to declutter or pack away, in my case, some of these palettes, so this is going into the packed pile. The next palette I have is also a classic BH Cosmetics palette. This is their Zodiac palette, which is a 25 color eyeshadow and highlighter palette. This one has frequently been on sale as well, so if you're interested in this, definitely wait for the sales, and you might be able to find this at a really affordable price. This palette is totally worth it though. Let's look inside. Now let me lift this up for a little bit. These shades are amazing. There are matte shades and shimmer shades, and you can create so many looks with this one. The shades are not as vibrant as in the other palettes, but that's okay because I feel like these shimmer shades are not necessarily that pigmented. You can create like perfect everyday looks with this, or you can create dramatic looks with this. Definitely worth the purchase if you're considering this. However, I don't see myself using this in the next couple of months, so I'm going to pack this away, but I'm definitely holding on to this as well. The shadows are great quality. The next palette I have from BH Cosmetics is It's My Rayray palette, and this is a collab palette with 15 color shadows. Let's open up and see what it looks like. I featured this as my palette of the week a couple of weeks ago, so if you're following my Instagram, you've probably seen this already. But this is a beautiful compact size palette with lots of pop and colors, two finishes, matte and shimmer, and you can create a multitude of beautiful, colorful looks with this one. So while the shades are beautiful and colorful, they're not as poppin', not as bright as the Take Me Back to Brazil palette shades. So for now, I think I am going to put this away since I don't think I'm going to reach for it in the next couple of months. I'll probably use the Brazil palette if I ever need these shades, but this is a beautiful compact palette, like I said, and totally worth the money when it comes to the pigmentation. Now the next palette I have is something from BH Cosmetics that was quite the hit when it came out. This is their Weekend Festival palette, and this has 20 color eyeshadows in it. Let's look inside to see what it looks like. Now, as you can see, there are a bunch of beautiful shades, and I honestly still can totally see why this was such a big hit when it came out. These summer shades are just so poppin', and you can create a multitude of looks with this, but you can also create sort of everyday looks with this palette, so it's not limited to the colorful shades. And I feel like this is totally something you could pack with you to a summer festival, and you could create this nighttime look with this or this daytime look. Both would work with this palette. But I think for now it is going into the box to be packed away because I just simply don't need these right now. A lot of these colors I already have in my other palettes. So for now I think I'm going to put this away for the couple of months. I don't necessarily need this right now. I have these shades in other palettes, and the only thing that I really would like to keep is this one green shadow, and for that it's just simply not worth keeping it in the drawer, taking up space. So I'm going to put it away from now, but I will definitely come back to this palette at some point. Next up, I have another classic BH Cosmetics palette that I think is totally worth the money, or was. I'm not sure if this is available still. This is the Carli Bybel Deluxe Edition 21 color eyeshadow and highlighter palette. And when this came out, it was hugely popular, and I totally can see why. It is great quality. Now let's look inside and see what it's like. It has a lot of shades that are amazing for everyday use. You can also use these shades as highlighters, or you could use them as eyeshadows. You're not limited to one or the other, but you can create so many different beautiful everyday looks with this one. If you are a makeup beginner, I think this would have been a great palette for you. If it's still available, definitely look into this. This is really good quality. And like I said, you can create so many office appropriate looks with this one. This one could be even a blush topper, I think. It is so beautiful. And right now I'm going to put it in my moving box just because I have a lot of neutral color eyeshadow palettes at use, or I'm trying something out. I don't necessarily need this right now, but I will be keeping this just because all of these colors are so usable, so wearable, and the quality is definitely there. Now the next palette I have is a bit of an older palette. This is their Wild and Alluring Baked Eyeshadow and Highlighter palette. I'm not entirely sure if this is available anymore. I have a feeling it is not, but this is one of their original-ish palettes, and this is simply another beautiful palette. I feel like this is comparable to the Galaxy Chic palette. There's so many beautiful eyeshadows, and this is again one of those palettes that you cannot use alone unless you're just doing a one shadow look, because there's no matte shades to give definition to your eye in these, but all of these shades are simply beautiful. Then you also get this shimmery blush shade right here that is absolutely beautiful, and I think this shade here you could use as a bronzer or bronzer topper, but to me it's way too dark, so I've used this as an eyeshadow, and it is simply beautiful as such. I think I'm going to swatch one of these shades for you guys just so you can see how beautiful these are. Let's try that one. I mean, the pigmentation is definitely there. It's just simply beautiful. This bronzer shade is super creamy. I just love all these shades. And here's that blush topper, so sparkly and pretty. If they still have this, definitely grab it. It is a beautiful palette. And the last palette I have for you guys today is BH Cosmetics Take Me Back to Brazil, a Rio edition palette. And this is the only BH Cosmetics palette I've ever regretted purchasing. I'm sad to say this is definitely not my favorite, and I didn't get as much use out of it as I thought I would. So let's look inside and see what this palette looks like. Now, the reason why I didn't get much use out of this palette is because it is an all shimmer palette. These shades are beautiful, but I never reach for this palette since I do need mattes usually to create my look, unless I want to create, like I said, a one shadow color look. But I have so many other palettes that have those matte shades that I reach over this one, so I'm not entirely sure if I use this ever. I probably only swatched this, but the shades themselves are beautiful, and if you don't have one of these colorful palettes and you love shimmer shades, this might be a palette for you. There's nothing wrong with the pigmentation. It's definitely there, and the colors, like I said, are beautiful. There's so much to choose from. I just don't reach for this, so it is going into my moving box. Let's see if I can swatch one of these, because these shades really are beautiful. Like I said, this is a beautiful shimmer palette. The shades are not too sparkly. They're just, you know, shimmery, but the pigmentation is amazing. So here are all my BH Cosmetics palettes, and like I said, I'm going to keep these 4 palettes, and these 7 palettes are going into my moving box. Now I am keeping the Run Wild by Tina Young palette, the Desert Oasis palette, Take Me Back to Brazil palette, and the Foil Eyes 28 color eyeshadow palette. The palettes I'm packing away are It's My Rayray palette, the Wild and Alluring palette, Weekend Festival, and Galaxy Chic, Take Me Back to Brazil Rio edition, Carli Bybel palette, and then the Zodiac palette. But I'm not decluttering completely any of these. I think they're all excellent quality palettes. The only palette that I'd be willing to part with would be the Rio edition. I might see if any of my friends would like that palette. I would be happy to give it forward so that someone else who would get some use out of it would enjoy it. But that is all I have for you guys for today. Let me know in the comments section if you have any BH Cosmetics palettes that you recommend us purchasing, or that you think are totally not worth it. That would be something interesting for us to know as well, so we can all save money or use it wisely. Either way, thank you so much for watching. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. And if you like this kind of video and want to see more of its kind, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. Stay tuned for more videos in my kind of declutter series. But thank you again, and I will see you guys in my next video.